Hey, what's going on, everyone? Back to cover this MLB slate for tonight. We have a full 12-game slate, as usual, for baseball. Tons of games today. So let's get started. As always, appreciate it. Hit the thumbs up button down below and subscribe if you have not already. Now, yesterday was definitely a core slate. To mention that today, I think you can get away with fading cores just because there's a lot of good offenses and a lot of mediocre pitchers, minus Max Scherzer and maybe Zach Wheeler at the top. But you got a bunch of offenses that can go off today, and I will touch on the ones that I like a lot. So just looking at some of the totals today, we go over to the 7 o'clock starting games. We have both the Braves and the Yankees. The Braves get a big park upgrade going to Yankee Stadium. They are facing off against Jordan Montgomery, who has kind of gotten hit around this year. If you look at his stats, the Braves have a bunch of good righties and a bunch of good lefty hitters, especially Ronald Acuna Jr., who I will get to. Acuna Jr., after his slow start to the season, he's been rolling against lefties and just in general recently. Montgomery, look at his splits this year. They are as presented below. He is giving up a 357 average and a 679 slugging to righties. You look back at 2019, give a 455 average. I mean, that was a super small sample size. So go back to 2018, 269 average. Go back to 2017, gave up a 244 average for his career. He's giving up a 411 slugging with 22 home runs. He gives up he has a 448 xFIP, which is not great, and doesn't. He's a decent strikeout pitcher, but at 22% to righties, but still gives up a decent amount of medium and hard contact. And just look at the fly ball numbers if I can find them. Here he gives up a 42.1% fly ball rate to righties, and this year he's been okay in like one start, and then got absolutely roasted against the Phillies. And then I think the Braves can hit him around at least a little bit. So I like the Braves a lot. The Yankees on the other side against Toussaint look good. The Phillies coming off of their best game of the season offensively, facing off against Alex Cobb, who's actually been good in some of his starts this year, but I'm not sure if I'm buying it. Also, the Orioles have a pretty bad bullpen, so I like the Phillies. I like the Tigers today against Gio. Gio's been bad. Doesn't really strike that many guys out anymore. This year is 7.71 ERA. He's actually average strikeout per inning, but he's facing off against a Detroit Tigers team who's been pretty surprising this year. I think they have like 9 wins or something like that. And Gio is just not that scary as a pitcher. He gives up power, gives up hard contact. He's now 34 years old. Look at the splits for him. If you look at 2020 this year, it's giving up a 618 slugging. He's giving up a 382 average. 2019, he gave up a 463 slugging. So I think the Tigers can hit him around a bit. And then I like the Washington Nationals a lot against Rick Porcello, especially the lefties, and they have a bunch of lefties. Porcello's been awful against lefties for his career. Then the Rays, you have some cheap hitters, and for the Rays, like Hunter Renfroe is down to 3,300, mashes lefties. You have Mike Brousseau mashes lefties down to 33. Could get a $3,000 Yandy Diaz leading off. And Coors, if you want to play Coors, don't fault you, but with all the ownership that he gets every game in Coors, the pitchers are much better than yesterday's pitchers, and we have a bunch of other good spots. So today, I think you can get away with fading Coors, and that's kind of where I'm at. And then I like the Angels a bit, especially Mike Trout, has been on an absolute another level, and he's absolutely owned Mike Fiers in his career. Trout has 5 home runs against Fiers and like 38 at bats with a almost a 400 average. He's batting 341 with 6 home runs in his 10 games. Just been on an absolute another level. And he got off to a slow start, so he's been super impressive. Like, if you look back at his first week of the season, he was striking out so much and barely making contact. But recently, he's just been amazing. So, probably in the beginning, his mind was on the potential kid. And now that his wife's had the kid, I think he's kind of back to focusing 100% on baseball. So, Trout looks tremendous today. Pitching wise, with there not being so many good options, I will go up to Max Scherzer at the top 10-8. He only pitched 1 inning and then he left the game with a hamstring injury, facing the same Mets team. And I think he's going to be the best pitcher on the slate, probably get the most fantasy points. There's just not that many other aces, so I will prioritize Max Scherzer. And then second pitcher we have is like Freeland. in cores, I'm not that interested, but it could be a tournament play. You have 6,600 for Marco Gonzalez against the Rangers. The Rangers offense has been kind of disappointing so far. They have some of their better hitters are lefties in the lineup with Odor and Gallo. They have some good righty hitters with Todd Frazier and maybe Andrews, but overall their offense has been disappointing. And Gonzalez has pitched well in some tough spots against the Angels both times, and against Houston wasn't great, but at least he didn't get absolutely blown up in. I think he can be a good SP2 today. So I think kind of with Marco Gonzalez, and then Tyler Alexander was unbelievably good against the Reds out of the bullpen, and then he got promoted to the starting rotation. You could definitely play him, I think, if you want. The White Sox are dealing with some injuries right now. We'll see what their lineup looks like. Was just absolutely impressive with how he's able to strike out. He struck out 9 Reds in a row. And again, the White Sox strike out a lot, so if he's not getting ownership, which I don't think he will, could be worth it. I like him a lot on Fanduel to just pay up for some bats. And then starting off here at first base, go with a bit of a cheap hitter. I like the Tigers a bit, and I think you can definitely get away with playing Miguel Cabrera at 2,400. Now, I barely ever played Miguel Cabrera, but this year he's been good with the power. He's up to 4 home runs this year, which is a lot more than a bunch of good hitters so far. He's not going to hit for high average anymore, but whenever he faces off against lefties, I'll have at least some interest. He's always been good against lefties for his career. This season, he's batting 139 against righties. He's batting 385 against lefties. Go back to 2019. He batted 340 against lefties last year with 4 home runs in just 97 at bats. Back to 2018, he batted 267 against lefties career wise. Been a little bit better, but recently, as he's aged, he's been a lot better against lefties. And Gio Gonzalez gives up power, gives up hits. You don't even need Cabrera to hit a home run today. Just get a couple hits and he'll make value. But if he hits a home run, he'll be one of the best. Obviously, be one of the best point per dollar plays. And then another guy that you can look at is Nico Goodrum at 3,900 from the Tigers. He's been hitting the cover off the ball, batting. Recently, he had a 4-hit game, had multiple 2-hit games in a row. He's also been amazing against lefties for his career. So he's getting to face Gio Gonzalez. The Tigers have some power in their lineup, and Goodrum doesn't have a ton of power, but he gets on base. He can steal some bases. He has a decent amount of power. And this year he's batting 438 against lefties, 7 hits and 16 at bats. 2019 he batted 361 against lefties. 2018 he batted 303 against lefties. Career wise, his average is 114 points higher against lefties. His strikeouts are 12% lower. The ISO is not really there, but the slugging is 85 points higher. So 3,900 Goodrum has been swinging a pretty hot bat, and he's still like in his prime, 28 years old, chance to be better. So I think he looks fine at shortstop. And then in the outfield, I want to pay up for some guys, which is why I went cheap at first base and shortstop. First guy I probably want to pay up for is Ronald Acuna Jr. at 5,600. Been on another level recently. 364 average in his last 10 games, 4 home runs. He's another lefty matcher. Look at the splits for Acuna against lefties. This year for his career, they've been super impressive. This year, it's only been 18 at bats, so I take back what I said. It's been disappointing this year, but 2019 he batted 270 against lefties with 10 home runs. The power was ISO numbers were there, 270 ISO. And then I think 2018 must have been when he went absolutely insane at 302 average. I mean, it's decent. Career-wise, been a little bit lower actually, but the power, the ISO numbers are there. 539 slugging, 266 average. And he's been really good recently. So I like Acuna. Gets a nice park upgrade as well. And then Juan Soto's been really, really hot, facing off against Rick Porcello. 5 games that he's played, he has 2 home runs, 467 average. He mashes right-handed pitching, and Porcello, his weakness is lefties and powerful lefties, and Soto is exactly that. So I feel like Juan Soto looks to be a pretty good option today. If you look at Porcello this season, he's giving up a 565 slugging to lefties. 2019 gave up a 487 slugging. So I like some of the lefties on the Nationals a bit, especially Soto is 5,200. He's a bit underpriced for how good he's been swinging the bat and how much of a good matchup this is. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for Draftkings, and then I will go ahead and touch on Fanduel pricing. Yeah, Fanduel, you have Max Scherzer at 10.7. It definitely looks good if you want to go all the way up there. If not, I'm either going all the way up for Scherzer, or I think you can go all the way down. I don't really want to mess around with the mid range. I think it's not worth it to go with like Wheeler when he can get up to Scherzer, or go with Bundy when he can get up to Scherzer. Just in my opinion, I think you can look at some cheap plays here, and you got Alexander down to 6,600. It's a little bit more expensive than he is on DraftKings, but I mean, I would have played like Gio. I mean, I would have played Marco Gonzalez, but he's 8,200 on FanDuel, so we're getting a pretty big savings. And then I think if you wanted to, maybe take a shot on like the Astros pitcher, but I feel like Alexander could be a sneaky play. Has some strikeout upside. Going back to his like even last season when he was pitching for the Tigers wasn't great, but still was getting some strikeouts. And against the Reds, if you follow John Boy Media, he like did a breakdown of him, and he was being pretty deceptive and being pretty. He doesn't throw heat, but he throws a bunch of pitches. He has like 4 or 5 pitches, and he kind of mixes it up so he can kind of keep the hitters off balance. And then I want to kind of focus on the same teams that I mentioned. I like the Phillies a lot. I like the Braves. I like the Angels a decent amount. Like Mike Trout, just like the one Angel that I really like. The Nationals a bit, and the Tigers. So starting off here at first base, I think I'll go with JT Realmuto, who for the Phillies has just been insane. He's been carrying them offensively. Him and Harper has been great, but Realmuto's been consistent the entire season. Hits for average, hits for power, doesn't really strike out a ton, and it's a good spot against Cobb, who's been good this year, but he hasn't really been good with the strikeouts. So I still like Realmuto at 3,400. Feel like he's at a price point where he should be, but just the way he's been hitting, he gives me confidence. At third base or second base, see you have like Jonathan Scope is cheap. You have go all the way up for LeMahieu if you want. I'll go back to Nico Goodrum, $2,800 for a shortstop leading off who mashes lefties in terms of average, not in terms of power, but gets on base, can steal some bases maybe. It's always tough to steal against a lefty, but maybe he gets a hit against the bullpen, can steal a base, but has the upside, and he's been really hot recently with multiple hits. Baseball, if a guy's seeing the ball well, he usually sees it for at least a while. It's not just like a one-time thing. And Goodrum's been seeing the ball well, especially against lefties. And then outfield, we have Mike Trout, 4,500. You have Juan Soto at 41. You have Ronald Acuna at 4,000. I want to pay up for some outfielders today, and on FanDuel, I will go with Trout, 45. Not only has he been just absolutely insane, but he loves hitting against Mike Fiers. If you look at the BVP, he has 5 bombs against Fiers, hits for almost like I think it's a 385 average and like almost 40 at bats. So Trout looks good, looks great, and then I love Juan Soto at 4,100. Super impressive, super impressive that he missed all that time at the beginning of the year and still didn't really miss a beat. Hits for a ton of power, hits for average, can steal some bases, does a bit of everything, and I am not scared of Rick Porcello, especially when you have a lefty, because Porcello is garbage against lefties. So that's it for the baseball video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and good luck tonight.